What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart for those of you that are new. And today I'll be breaking down this 7-game NBA slate here on DraftKings for Wednesday night, doing a game-by-game breakdown, talking through my favorite plays, some core plays, value plays, and building a potential lineup for you guys here for tomorrow night. So make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Do appreciate all the new support. Thank you guys for supporting this channel. Really does mean a lot to me. If you guys want more in-depth breakdowns, those will be starting next week, next Tuesday, on my Patreon link down below. I'll have a full write up, kind of a cheat sheet for the entire slate, as well as NBA PrizePicks plays, as well as my updated core plays once we get the news for every single slate. So make sure to check that out next week. But right now, I'm still currently doing updated core plays if you guys want that for the next week or so. So make sure to check that out. Hit the like button and let's get right into it. If you guys want to know what my night is going like so far, I'm recording this pretty early, and this is why. One of my core plays, as always, make sure to follow me on Twitter at HeartDFS. But my core play, Jason Tatum. And then right here, Pat Connaughton, one of my value plays, is actually doing pretty solid. Yeah, so there's my night so far. So jumping into the 7-game slate for Wednesday night. Hopefully we have a little bit better luck there with no injuries and our superstars just not having the worst game of the season. But yeah, Lakers, Pistons. We have 7 out of the 8 games, or excuse me, 6 out of the 7 games so far. Odds so far for tomorrow night. So we have the Lakers, Pistons 7-point spread, 229 total. Wizards and Magic 10-point spread, 233.5 total. Suns, Raptors 1-point spread, 225.5. Jazz, Grizzlies 5-point spread, 225.5. Sixers, Pelicans 1-point spread, 227.5. And then we have the Clippers and Kings 1-point spread, 230.5. So it looks like we're missing that Houston and Denver game from the board right now. So we'll have to stay updated with that. But jumping into the slate here, starting off with the Washington side here. Washington, as we know, absolutely god-awful team. Very bad, both offensively and defensively. And they're playing the number 1 defensive team in the league, Orlando, who's actually very good, flying under the radar for most people. But number 1 defensive team, they're playing very well. So it's going to be a struggle here for the Wizards. It's going to be a slow-paced matchup. Really good defensive team that they're going against. So Kusa's more of a secondary option. I still think he's a strong play just because he's pretty much the whole team. So at that price tag, a little restrictive, but you're going to get him at a very low ownership. And he does have good upside, as you can see. Almost went for a triple-double there that last game, even with shooting 10 of 23. Poole, priced up 7.2K. Do not love this at all. Got benched kind of the rest of the game there. The game blew out, but still, he just has been, he was turning it on a little bit there the past 3 games until that last game happened, but still 7.2K in this matchup. Don't love that. Denny's a fine secondary option. Don't love him. Tyus is there. Gafford, still a little bit of interest in him just because of the upside, but his minutes are all over the place. Yeah, really right now for me, not a lot of interest. Gallinari, sure, he could have a decent game there, but that's kind of forced at that value point. Not much to like here for Washington in this matchup with their price tags. For the Orlando side, obviously it's a good matchup for them offensively. So Paolo, Fronta, I think are both decent options. Don't love the price tags on either one of them. Cole Anthony's all the way up to 6.7K, so he's more of a stay away for me, even though he's been playing very well recently. He's still coming off the bench. I know he's been seeing good minutes, but don't love that price tag for a guy who's coming off the bench, and the minutes are not a guarantee. Suggs, priced up to 6,000. I think he still has some interest for me. He does have some upside. Not shooting the ball a ton, but he's doing well, defensively and getting some peripheral stats. Fultz and Carter are still out, so obviously that's more minutes for guys like Suggs, Anthony, and Gary Harris. Goga's there, splitting the center run, still seeing, kind of in that 20-minute mark. Sometimes he'll get, close to 30. It's really just random when that happens. So he's a GPP option, but nothing more than that for me. Same thing with Mo Wagner, GPP option. They're just there for me. It's a good matchup. Solid price tags, but it's really hard to trust the minutes. It does not feel great landing on them. Isaac is questionable. Obviously, if he's out, that's just more minutes to the wings like Wagner and Paolo. Now, obviously, guys like off the bench, value guys like Ingles. Maybe we get some Chuma, but nothing too crazy there. I'd really only look to Joe Ingles as a very bad value play, but he's still in contention just because he should see about 15-ish minutes. 3.7K, don't love it, but he's there. Anthony Black should also see some of those minutes, 15. Nothing too crazy there. I want to get to him. Gary Harris is probably the only value play that I would have a little bit of interest in, but yeah, everyone's kind of priced about right for me in this game here. Not a lot of interest at all. Moving on to the Lakers here. LeBron, AD, both questionable, but they both should be good to go here in a great matchup against one of the, if not the worst team in the league in Detroit right now, who are even worse than Washington, which is wild. But yeah, absolutely love the spot here for the Lakers. Anthony Davis or LeBron, or even both of them. I think it's a fantastic spot for both of them. So I'm going to lead towards Anthony Davis just because he's one of those guys where, LeBron's way more consistent. Anthony Davis, as you can see, he got absolutely babied by Embiid that last game. Embiid put up a triple-double. They beat him by like 50, or I think it was like, 44 points, something like that. So yeah, I expect Anthony Davis and the Lakers to come out strong here, especially Anthony Davis after getting embarrassed. So going to want to load up on him there at 9.8K in this matchup. LeBron's a very strong play. I do have a good amount of interest in Russell here. Starting minutes were great the last game because of a blowout, but should see mid to low 30s minutes. Reeves is fine off the bench. He's actually been pretty solid. One of the best bench players in the league right now, especially the past few games. But don't love the price tag on him there, but he's okay. Prince it really depends on Reddish. If Reddish is back, I think he's an okay play. Prince would be not the best for me at 4.9. Wood would come off the bench. Hachi is still out, so that's minutes to Wood and Hayes. But yeah, everyone's really priced up in terms of the value plays. It's really just getting to LeBron, AD, or maybe one of the guards in Russell or Reeves, and that's really it. Moving on to Detroit here. Obviously, a little bit of a tougher matchup, but still, I think it's a decent price tag in Cade. As you can see, he has that upside. In a close game, he should see close to 40 minutes, as I always say, 20 shots, possibly even more. And he does have double upside with points and assists. So I'll keep mentioning that. So it's an okay price tag in him. I still love the price tag in Durant here. Obviously, it's a tough matchup for a guy who's pretty foul prone going against AD, but 6.9K. As we saw last game, went off for 44, and he was dealing with foul trouble that whole game. So really like him there, and did that with only 8 shot attempts. So still really like Durant there at that price tag. I think Asar is a very strong play here. One of those guys who, foul prone at times, as you can see, because he's very aggressive defensively, but it can absolutely stuff the stat sheet. Still a pretty solid price tag on him. Ivy was massive chalk last slate and rewarded everyone. Not really sure why. One kind of there for almost a mini triple double. I think he's an okay play. He'll start. He'll see the minutes. It's just, yeah, I just don't love him at that price tag. Stewart, I think, is a fine play there, especially if you think Derwin or some of the bigs in foul trouble. He should see a little bit more run at center. But yeah, he's a fine play. Don't love him. Sasser's not seeing a ton of minutes off the bench. His minutes are kind of in question. Same with Burks. You'd want more minutes out of him, so don't love those right now. It really depends on if, Ivy's doing bad. If he's doing bad, it should be more minutes to a guy like Burks. So I wouldn't mind taking a GPP shot on Burks, but that's really it. Otherwise, Kevin Knox is kind of fallen out of the rotation. Same thing with Killian Hayes. His minutes have gone way down. I think Livers is still an okay value option. Has seen solid minutes the past 3 games. Obviously, it's helped with blowouts, but still, I think he's in line to see at least 10 to 15. Could see more if this game does blow out. If he hits a few shots, he will get extended. They do like him a little bit, so I think it's a fine option. On to Phoenix here versus Toronto. Durant and Booker, both very strong plays. I think Durant is a little bit safer. He's just been a little bit more consistent recently compared to Booker, who at times doesn't hit the shots and doesn't have enough upside to kind of get you there at this price tag. But still, I think they both are very strong plays. I prefer Durant, but both look really good here. Nurkic is fine in the mid-range. He does have some upside there. Should play a decent amount because, Toronto is a little bit taller, so they will need Nurkic out there. Gordon with Durant, most likely back. Don't like him or any of these guards here. Allen, even if Allen's out, I just don't think I'd get to the guards with, Durant most likely back. He's still questionable, so let's wait and see. But if he is back, it's really just the 2 at the top for me. Maybe get into Nurkic if you want to get a little bit more contrarian. Otherwise, don't have any interest in these guys unless we get like like a Koji starting. He started last game, only played 17 minutes. Bates Diop has been starting. He's been, solid, I guess, 4.6, but still don't love the price tags or the output for any of those guys right now on the Phoenix side besides the 2 guys at the top. So we'll have to wait for that Durant news and I guess the Allen news as well. Excuse me. Moving on to Toronto here. Still, it's kind of the same, breakdown I have for Scotty every single game. We'll see what the minutes were like tonight. I still think it's a pretty close game and it's still ongoing. So obviously we don't know what his box score will be like, but he should see, his minutes have been down a little bit recently, his shot attempts as well, but he should still see, mid to high 30s minutes. Should be aggressive. Offense is still kind of rolling through him. So I still think it's a very strong price tag for him. Pascal's more the contrarian option there. Dennis Schroeder is also a very, decent secondary GPP option just because of the double upside. Same thing with OG. They'll need his defense against Booker and KD, so I expect him to play a ton of minutes there. So I do have a good amount of interest in him. Podol going up against Nurkic. I actually do really like him here at 6,000. Should play solid minutes. He's playing a lot of minutes recently, 29, 31, 35. Not sure how many he's playing right now tonight, but they should need him against Nurkic. So I don't mind landing to him. Off the bench, not real much interest for me. Moving on to Utah here. Laurie is still out, so they did still start Yurt over everyone else there. Only played 22 minutes in a close game there, so I think he's an okay play. I don't love that. Clarkson should be good to go. He played that last game, but obviously still has a questionable tag, but still went out there and put up 38. He'll be the main scorer there, so I don't love the price tag, but he's going to be the number one option, so he should shoot the ball a ton. Does have that assist upside, so I think he's a fine play against the Memphis Grizzlies, who have been terrible. Collins is a fine secondary option. Keontae George, kind of the same thing. No one really stands out here. Walker Kessler, if he does move in the starting lineup, I would have interest in him just because he does have huge upside there. Minutes have actually been decent recently, especially for him coming off the bench there. So he'd be my second favorite play. Horton Tucker, kind of there. Sexton, Kelly Olynyk, if he's good to go, I don't mind him. If he's out, obviously it's more minutes to a guy like Yurt, to a guy like Kessler, maybe even Fonte has been starting as well. He's an okay value, 4.6. But no one really stands out to me there for Utah. For Memphis, I think it's a great spot here for Desmond Bane, who's kind of been struggling recently. As you can see, 27, 20 fantasy points past 2 games. So I like a buy low option here for him. Same thing with Jaren Jackson Jr. Both these guys were priced up close to 9K. Now they're both down to mid to low 8s and mid to low 7s for both. So really like both of them here in a great matchup against Utah. So I'm going to throw both of them in there for right now and kind of go from there. Santi, I still think is a decent play here. Should play solid minutes. He's been pretty productive. So 6.4K, I still think he's a solid play. Biyombo with all these other guys, I think more so just an okay secondary option. Should see around 30-ish minutes. Not going to shoot the ball a ton. Really, you need him to get that double-double and a few blocks to really pay off his price tag, but it's a fair price tag for him. In terms of these secondary guys, not much interest for me in any of these guys. They'll play they'll play Gilliard, Rose, Roddy, Williams, Contra. But it's really kind of the main 3 guys for me, and that's really it. Rose, he's been fine, productive, but no one really stands out to me. Roddy, I guess, just because he's getting the most minutes. But yeah, I mean, they're all fine plays. Moving on to Philadelphia here versus the Pelicans. For the Philly side, Embiid, if you find value, is obviously always a very safe option. Still love the price tag here for Maxey. 51 there, 36 minutes. He's going to play a ton of minutes, shoot the ball a ton. Offense is going through him and Embiid. So he's always a very strong and safe play. Tobias Harris still kind of priced out of the range for me, but he's an okay secondary option. Melton has been better recently, so if you want to get a piece from this game, he's the cheapest option that does have some decent upside and a decently safe floor recently. Other than that, not much interest for me. Batum, he's been good the past 2 games. Don't buy into that. He can come out next game and put up 10 fantasy points or even less. So I think he's still a very risky value option, but he's there. Same with Beverly, all over the place with his fantasy points. So don't have a ton of interest in these guys. It's really just the main 2 for me. If you want to get a little bit different, go to Harris or Melton. For the Pelicans here, CJ could be back here. So if CJ is back, I have no interest in anyone on this team. They're all way too pricey for me with CJ most likely back. Now, if he's for some reason out, sure, you can land on Brandon and Zion. They'll be both very, very low owned and contrarian. Same with J-Val, going up against Embiid. They should need his size, so she should play close to 30 minutes, but obviously it depends on foul trouble. And I just don't really have any interest in any of these other guys. Possibly, Daniels, if he does start again, I think he'd be an okay play. But I would assume it seems like CJ is going to be back. He's going to go through shooting around, so I don't think he'll be held out. And for that reason, everyone else is just kind of out of play for me. Moving on to Houston here. They're playing tonight, so we'll see if any injuries happen or, anything crazy happens. But still, Sengun and Van Fleet should both see close to 40 minutes. I still think they're priced pretty solid here. As we saw that last slate, Sengun was an absolute beast for me. Almost went for 60 bomb there against Jokic, and they actually blew out Denver. Obviously, Denver's missing. I think they missed Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray. Obviously, Jamal Murray's been out, but I think Aaron Gordon was also out for that game as well. So obviously, it helps Houston, but still, I think he's going to be. I think people will chase that box score, but I still think he'll be decently low owned because obviously he's going up against Jokic. But still, I think he's a very strong play. Same thing with Van Fleet. Green, a little bit too pricey for me, but he's a fine play. Jabari Smith has actually been pretty productive, even though he's not getting a ton of shots and not seeing a ton of minutes. So it's fine if you land on these guys, but still, I'd really just prefer the 2 at the top. Eason, if you want to go a little bit more contrarian and risky with a value play, possibly some Tate there as well. He's been kind of in that same range as Eason. And that's really it. Not a ton of interest in anyone else for me here. Everyone else kind of seems a little bit forced. Moving on to Denver here. Obviously, same thing with Embiid. If you can find the value for Jokic, he's going to be extremely low owned at that price tag of almost 13K. And obviously, he's questionable, but he should probably be good to go and coming back. With that news there, Porter Jr. is way too pricey for me. Even, Aaron Gordon's a little bit too pricey for me with Jokic back. Murray is possibly back. Most likely won't be back for this game here. But obviously, keep an eye out for that, because if that's the case, then really no interest in anyone on this side here. But if Murray's still out, you can still get to Reggie Jackson here. Obviously, his usage will go down with Jokic back, but he still had some pretty solid games there, mid-30s with Jokic. So I still think I'd have interest in him, and that's really it there. We'll kind of have to wait for that news there. We should get that kind of midday, most likely. And then moving on to the Clippers here. For the Clippers side here, Paul George coming off a horrendous game there. 2 of 13, 24.5 fantasy points. Good matchup here against the Kings, who do play tonight. So I still have to wait for news there on the Kings side. But yeah, Paul George, fine contrarian spend up option. Same thing with Kawhi Leonard. I still think I'd prefer Kawhi. He's getting the shot attempts. It's just he really hasn't had that fantasy output. Nothing too crazy here. So 8K, I do think is a strong price tag for Kawhi. He still has 45, 50 plus upside. James Harden's okay there in the mid range. Russ off the bench, no interest in that. Zubac is always kind of your random GPP play. They will kind of need his size against Sabonis. It's not a guarantee because they can go smaller with Kawhi or Paul George guarding Sabonis. Nothing too crazy there. But yeah, it's kind of like a J-Val play. If he sees close to 30 minutes, he should have that ability to go for a double-double and pay off his price tag. Off the bench, Powell, man will start, but obviously not playing the best. Not a lot of interest from me. Maybe a little bit of Tice as a cheaper value option. That's really it. So moving on to the Kings here. Sabonis price really hasn't moved, so I still think he's a great play. Fox, don't love the price tag, but he's also been just fantastic this season. So they both look like pretty solid spin ups. Both are going to be super contrarian. In the mid range here, not a lot of interest for me. I think Monk is your best bet, even though he's going to come off the bench. The minutes haven't been great, but he's a lot more consistent. Probably has a better ceiling than a guy like Herter right now. Barnes is just there. And that's really it's Trey Lyles. I do have some interest in him. Minutes have been pretty solid the past 2 games he has played, 28 and 19. He's usually pretty productive as well. So I do think he's still a little bit of a risky play, but still I think a pretty safe value option of 4.5. Duarte, if there is no Keegan Murray, he should start. I don't know what they're doing at the starting lineup right now tonight, but that's kind of how they should go, or most likely what they'll go with. So we could look to him if he does start as like a cheaper value option at 4.2K, depending on how he goes with the minutes tonight. But that is a slate breakdown. Right now, the core plays are going to be Bane, Jackson Jr., Duran, and Anthony Davis. Obviously, we do have a good amount of injury news to kind of wait for. So make sure to stay updated with me on my Twitter, on my Patreon link down below. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.